right, CNT140 cable support for our bid spec. We left off with our selecting our cable tray and adding that to our spreadsheet with the actual quantity. 10-foot trays, so we took our distance we needed in our building, divided by 10, came up with 45 trays. All right, the next thing we need to do, and that's what this right here is, add the quantity to your spreadsheet. The next thing we need to look at is support. How are we going to support our cable trays? Well, if I want to support my cable trays, I need to do a little homework on how I need to support them. And if I look at the install guide, that's what's here. I actually have a link to that. That's about the only time we're going to look at it, so I wouldn't get too hung up on trying to download it. But in the install guide, they tell you that cable fill trays come in basically 10-foot lengths, and they need to be designed. They're designed for supporting every 6 to 8 feet. So a 10-foot tray supported 6 to 8 feet, we're going to need at least 2 brackets for that tray, for every tray. That's giving us at least a starting point. So we know we need at least 2 brackets per tray. So, okay. With the with that in mind now, and actually I put a note over here already, I'm going to need a tray support. I need 2 supports per tray. So I know I need at least 90 of whatever support I'm going to pick out. So that's where I'm coming up with that number. I kind of put that in there right away of like, okay, I know I need that. So going to my catalog now, again, after my trays, there should be the section on, there's splicing. We're going to keep going. Here is wall mounting. After splicing, we have a section on wall mounting. This gives us a bunch of different options for wall mounting. Our building is pretty suitable for doing wall mounting around the halls, so we should be able to just find a reasonable bracket to do that. Here's a universal bracket that uses actually a like a channel on the wall. Here is a universal bracket that's an L, but that does not go very wide. It does not accommodate my full width of tray. So I'm going to go down here to the universal wall bracket, this kind right here, because that actually goes out to 24 inches. So in our notes page right here, that's where I came up with this universal wall bracket. Down here showing the CRP 600 is a 24-inch bracket. That'll work. So I took that number and put it over here so that I knew that's what I'm going to be researching, the CRP 600. And I know by looking at the install guide that I need 2 of those per tray, so I'm going to need at least 90 brackets. 45 trays would need 90 brackets. Okay, I'm going to keep looking at this page because it also tells me that I'm going to need some bolt and washer and nut hardware to anchor the tray to the bracket. And it tells me over here that if I have a 500 to 600 millimeter wide tray, which is this guy, this is a 600 millimeter wide tray, that I'm going to need 3 of these bolt washer nut combos to anchor the bracket to the tray. Okay, so I'm going to put them on my list, and when you look them up, you actually find out that the bolt and nut come as one piece, and the washer comes as a separate piece. That's what these part numbers are. So the easy bin 1/4 inch is the bolt and nut, and then the CE25, that's the washer, if you will, comes as a separate piece. So I put them on my spreadsheet here. Cable tray anchor hardware, I'm going to need 3 per bracket, and this is the nut and bolt assembly. And then right here is the cable tray anchor hardware, 3 per bracket. I'm going to need 1-inch square washer clamp. So I know that I need the nut and bolt assembly, and I also need the square washer assembly. And what I'll do here is, I didn't put this in earlier, so I'm going to put it in now. The bolt and nut is the Easy Bin 1/4. So Easy Bin 1/4. That's the model number we'll be looking for. Easy Bin 1/4, or BN, excuse me. Bolt and nut. There we go. And then down here for the washer, the model number of that guy is the CE25. CE25. And I'll hold on to those. So I have those model numbers as well. I have the tray model number, I have the bracket model number, I have the bolt and nut model number, and the washer model number. And I looked up earlier that these come in a package of 50, so that I just have that there to know how many I'm going to order. Okay, so now I have the bracket, and I also have the mounting hardware for that. Nice. Okay, we're doing good. We're getting our pieces together. So right here is just a reminder of adding all those quantities too. The quantity of 3 bolt washer nut that you'll need, and there's my model numbers for each of those. All right. The almost last thing that we need to look at is the splicing. How am I going to put my trays together? When the trays go, end to end, how am I going to anchor them together? So in my catalog again, I'm going to scroll up before the brackets. This is where the splicing area was. Okay, here's the splicing. And there's a couple different options to anchor the trays together. And if you look in our building is pretty much always 90-degree angles. So we don't actually have to worry about too many specialty corners. So we can, for the most part, just anchor the trays end to end. And our system should work pretty well. We should not have to worry about too many fancy things. So we used to spec out these right here, the Splice washer unit that is similar to what we did looked at for the bracket. But they now make a fast splice that's basically a snap and place unit to anchor the trays together. There's no hardware needed. I don't need to take the time to anchor it on nuts and bolts. So we'll end up using this one. We'll use the fast splice. And it tells you that I need to look in A60 to find out how many of these I need. So we're in A17, so I'm going to scroll down a good bit here. Keep going. Where is... Oh, I went by a little bit. So I'm going to scroll up here to A60. And in here, there's 70. Back a little bit more. Here we go. Here's the proper splicing for the EDR fast splice. This tells you you're going to need 2 for the sides, no matter what your width is. And since my width is a 24-inch, I'm going to need 2 for the bottom. I'm going to need 2 splices to anchor the side, and then I'm going to need 2 splices to anchor the bottom. So I'm going to need 4 of these for every splice. So over here on my spreadsheet, I'm indicating cable tray splicing. I'm going to need 4 per splice. If I have 45 trays, I'm going to have like 44 splices, if you will. So that means I'm going to need 176 fast splice connectors. And then I put in here, oops, I didn't put the model number here either, so let me grab that. We're going to need this EDRN fast splice. EDRN fast splice. That's what we're going to need there. And again, you'll find out when we look it up, they come in a package of 50. So that's where I'm coming up with that quantity, and that's where I'm coming up with these quantities here, because I know they come in a package of 50. But as we look up the prices in them, we can verify that for you. So now we have the tray, we have the bracket, we have the hardware for anchoring the tray to the bracket. Now we have the splicing mechanism to anchor the trays together end to end. Excellent. We are almost done looking up equipment do we need, and that's what we're getting. That's where in here, the splicing of the trays, that's where I got that from, right from the catalog. Okay, so there's our splicing hardware. Last but not least, we want to look up the J-hooks we need for our building. So as the cabling leaves the tray and goes into our rooms, we need some kind of J-hook to support them. If I look up in the standard, the 569 standard, it actually says that I should be supporting my non-continuous pathway support, basically anything other than a cable tray. I should be supporting the cable about every 5 feet. So that's where I came up with that number earlier about every 5 feet we're going to need a J-hook. So with that in mind, that'll start giving us a quantity. We also want to make sure we're getting the size of J-hook large enough. So again, if I look at my catalog in the J-hook section, so I'm going to go over to the catalog. The J-hook in here, I'm going to do a Control F, and I'm going to do, actually I'm going to go back to the beginning because I'll show you where it is. Let me go back to the beginning of the catalog. They actually have it listed here. J-hooks are down here pretty far. Wire and cable hangers down here in like D2, D9, so forth. So if I do a search for D.2 and do until I find it, there's the wire and cable section. It's almost at the end of the catalog. So I'm going to scroll down here a little bit. I'm going to get rid of the find. I don't need that anymore. And here's my J hooks. There's a number of different styles. I can hang them right off the cable tray, off of beams and other supports up in the ceiling. So they make a couple different clamping styles for this. Here starts showing you the model numbers for these. But I'm interested in this point at this right here with my hook size. 2-inch hook size can accommodate up to about 80 Category 6 cables. So again, that'll give me some room to grow because I might have a bundle of 30 going in the computer lab. And right down here, it does not give me a lot of room if I do a smaller J hook. So if I do a 2-inch J hook, I should be in pretty good shape. So that's how I'm going to know that I'm picking out a 2-inch J hook here. So over on my spreadsheet, I'm saying J hooks. I'm going to need about a 2-inch J hook. And I'm going to need about 10 per room. If we do our distance, every 5 feet, 10 in a room can get me 50 feet around a room. That's pretty good distance. So it's a pretty good ballpark estimate. If I do about 10 per room times my 22 rooms that I'm going to need J hooks in. Some rooms will need more, some will need less. So hopefully it'll work out. That's about 220 J hooks. Again, a 2-inch J hook. So I'm putting that in here that I know I need a 2-inch J hook. And I don't have a model number of that one because I'm going to look up when I'm looking up prices for these guys. I will just I'll find what they have to offer there and use a 2-inch J hook there. Alrighty, so we now have all of our research done. Here's adding our J hooks. The last thing we need to do is get pricing. So the last podcast, I'll get pricing with you that we can add to our spreadsheet.